Welcome to the Dope Black Chick podcast, where we have bold, transformational conversations for women over 40, navigating faith, mindset, soft life, and personal growth. And today we are diving into the world of flowers, healing, and entrepreneurship with a special guest who is making waves in the floral industry. I'm excited to welcome Talia Boone, founder of Postal Petals, a brand that delivers fresh cut flowers straight to your door. And it gives you an experience for yourselves to experience the joy and therapy of floral arranging at home. We'll be talking about her journey into entrepreneurship, the healing power of flowers, and how floral therapy fits into the soft life movement. Plus, I'll be sharing my own personal connection with flowers and how they've played a role in my life. So let's go ahead and get started. Talia, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Thank you so much. I am well. I'm ready to take on the week. It's Monday and I'm ready to get it going.
That's right. I'm with you on that. So let's start with your journey into entrepreneurship. Now, Postal Petals is such a unique and beautiful concept. And when I found out about it, I screamed, literally.
Oh, thank you.
Because I thought that was the dopest thing. Again, the show is called The Black Chick, but I thought that was the dopest thing ever. I was like, oh my God, we got
I love it.
Yes. I immediately wanted to tell everybody I knew, like, hey, y'all, we can order our flowers from a sister. Like, we got something.
You can.
Like, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yes, you can.
So, I was enthused to talk to you. I know I've been screaming on this microphone, but
it's okay. I love the energy.
Yes.
You feel about flowers the way I feel about flowers.
I feel about flowers and Black women the way you feel about flowers.
And Black women. Yes.
So my first question is going to be, what inspired you to create it? And what was the journey like?
So I'll tell you about my journey first, because it leads into how I end up with the flowers. I'm actually a serial entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur for many, many years. I started in sports. So my background is in sports PR, marketing, brand strategy, and partnerships. I worked in the NFL for many years. And then I went out on my own. I went out on my own and was running what I call a tactical solutions agency, where we did a lot of work at the intersection of sports, entertainment, and social impact. And the foundational goal of what we did with Intersect was we would deploy the corporate financial resources of the financial resources of corporate America with the social equity of sports and entertainment assets for the purpose of social and civic issues, right? So that would be anything from like human rights, civil rights,
right,
women rights, LGBTQ rights, etc. And so I did that work for many years and thoroughly enjoyed it. And flowers began to intersect in that world. It was when as just a part of like a friend activity, I have a friend that we're adamant about not ever sitting down for like brunch or lunch or dinner. We always will want to do something kind of like different that keeps us like engaged and always trying something new. And so it was time for us to it's time for like a friend hang, and she suggested flower arranging, and I had never done it before, but I was like, that sounds fun. Right. Let's do it. And I did it. And not only did I find it fun, I found it really relaxing. And I was confused about that. I was like, I love doing this, but it also was like really soothing. And I kind of kept thinking about it. Every time I looked at the flowers that I'd made, I would think like, wow, that I just really enjoyed that experience. And even looking as I, had that flower arrangement for a week or so, every time I looked at that arrangement, it took me back to the feeling that I had as I was making it. And so the next week, and I just thought, well, I don't know if that was a fluke. Maybe I was just having a great time with friends. And And that's what I was remembering. I'm like, I'm going to do it again. So I went down to the LA flower market, just milled around and picked some flowers. No idea what they were called.
Mm-hmm.
No idea the names of flowers. I just walked around and kind of picked whatever I thought looked good together, came home and made another arrangement and had that same feeling. And at that point, I did it again and again and again. And it just became that thing that I would do whenever I felt stressed, whenever I felt anxious, which in the line of work that I was in at that time, it was very stressful, right? Like I always will talk to people about who work in the social justice or social impact space that, people always will say like, oh, the system's broken. I was like, no, it's not. The system is functioning exactly as it's intended to
Right.
function. And the frustration is intentional. It's an intentional distraction to keep you going,
Yeah.
to kind of keep you, distracted.
Mm-hmm.
And so in that, I found myself regularly in need of something to relieve stress, something to relieve anxiety. And without having the language for it then, it really became like my go-to form of self-care. And so fast forward to the pandemic, the very early days of the pandemic. I was, first I'm based here in LA. And, first it was, 2 weeks, then 4 weeks, and then that became 6 weeks. And by 6 weeks, I was like, yo, they bugging. Like, this is something's up. Like, this is a very long time. And so at that point, I kind of started freaking out. And I was like, the walls were like closing in. I'm like, what does this mean for myself, my family, my livelihood, all of these things? And it was actually my therapist who said, I haven't heard you talk about arranging flowers in a couple of months. Why don't you try that and see if it helps you? And so I was like, oh, that's actually a really good idea. But the flower market was closed because of the lockdowns. And I don't do grocery store flowers. I don't care, don't at me. I just think I'm too good for them. I'm not doing it, never have, and I'm still not doing it. So I was like, well, let me find some place online that can ship me like high quality flowers. And I was like, I'm sure you could. At that point in particular, you can get anything delivered, even stuff that was never up for delivery option was being delivered at that point.
Right.
So I started looking around, and while there were, so many companies that would ship you flowers, they were all shipping that traditional model of a finished, professionally designed arrangement. And that's not what I wanted. I wanted to have the experience of prepping the flowers and cutting them and arranging them stem by stem. Like that was the experience that I wanted. And I looked and just could not find what I was looking for in the way that I was looking for. But in the process of my search, I stumbled on this wholesale flower distributor who shipped really large volumes of flowers to his retail clients all around the world. And so I just thought, well, I'm just going to call him and see if he would be willing to reduce his minimums enough to just ship me basically like a consumer size box of flowers for me to arrange at home. And so I called him, just cold called him and asked him about the reducing his minimums. And he was like, right away, he was like, no, but he was really kind in his no and very generous in his explanation why. And so we ended up on the phone for about 2.5 hours.
Oh, wow.
And by the time we got off the phone, I recognized two things, because remember, my background is PR, marketing, brand strategy, and partnership. Two things that I recognized. One was that what I was looking for did not exist in the market the way that what I was looking for did not exist in the market in the way in which I was looking for, which indicated a hole in the market. The other thing that I realized at the end of that call was that there was an opportunity for me to enter an industry that traditionally it's kind of a gatekeeper culture, right? Because what happened with the pandemic is that it really did become like the great equalizer, right? So typically what happens in the floral industry is that, larger retailers could kind of gatekeep or, kind of influence farms or other wholesalers around working with people who they think could be a threat to their business or whatever. And so because during the pandemic, there were no events, people were stockpiling toilet paper. I don't know if they were even selling flowers at the grocery store, to be honest,
Right.
In those days. But there was an opportunity for me to possibly enter into this industry. And so at the end of the call, I said to him, like, hey, do you think something like this could work? And I, described kind of a rough version of what Postal Petals is now. And he thought about it for a second. He said, if you would have asked me this 4 months ago, I would have said no. But, now in the state that we're in, actually something like that could work. And so that was the first week of Mother's Day, first week of May, just before Mother's Day, 2020. And by July of that same year, just a few months later, we launched Postal Petals in beta, with over 20, almost 20 farm partners signed up to ship for us. So it was very much
Awesome.
unexpected. And it was very much one of those things that, most Black women, all Black women can relate to, that, it's like, okay, if it doesn't exist, F it, I'll do it.
Right.
Like, I'll figure it out. Like, I'll get it done. And it's funny. Someone pointed this out to me in a way that I didn't think about before, but aligns with so many, so something that I say all the time. Because when I talk about how when I first asked him right away, he said no. And then after 2.5 hours on the phone and kind of talking through all of the things that's going on in the industry and all that, I basically asked him for the same thing again, but just to do it bigger. And somehow he was like, that's actually a good idea. And they were, because I was telling someone that, and they were like, so you asked him the same thing at the end of the call that you did at the beginning? In the beginning, he said no. And at the end, he said, yeah. I was like, I guess so. I didn't think about it like that, but I guess so. But I will always say to people that no is never a final. No is just an indicator that you're not asking the right way, or that you're not asking the right
Right.
person.
That's it.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that.
So that's the story of how we came to be. And that was July of 2020. And we've been off to the races since then. So what we do is on the consumer side, we work with domestic flower farms to ship boxes of fresh cut flowers to our customers all across the country for them to create their own arrangements. I like to liken it to something similar to HelloFresh, where you get all of the ingredients to make your meal and it's left to you to make the meal yourself. That's how it is with our bloom boxes. And then we also do virtual and in-person floral design workshops for our consumers. And then we have a corporate offering where we also do virtual and in-person floral design workshops, but for things like corporate wellness, corporate employee team building, that type of thing. We do bespoke gifting solutions for corporate partners. We do live event activations, like our make and take bloom bars, flower crown making bars. We do all kinds of stuff. Like, it's just expanded so much. I'm obsessed with this company. I love it so much. I love it
I
so,
love
so
the
much.
idea of it. I think it is beautiful. And I note to myself, stay out of the grocery store for your flowers. Let me upgrade myself and get me some fresh cut flowers. But let's talk about the healing power of flowers. I have to share this. Flowers, for me, for a long time, I was just not into flowers at all.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
I just saw a bad connotation. I had a bad connotation with flowers from my mother. Like, my dad used to give her
Mm.
flowers all the time, and my mom was like, "What are you giving these to me for?" You know, and
Oh, your mom never liked flowers.
she loves flowers, which is the crazy thing. Is like she plants. She has
Ah.
all these flowers outside that she plants.
Mm-hmm.
But when my
Mm-hmm.
dad would bring her a bouquet or something, she would get upset. Now, as a grown woman, I get it,
Really?
because usually men are giving it to you after they did something they had no business doing. So,
Oh, yikes.
so
Okay.
as an adult, I
I
get
honestly
it.
never thought about that. I just was like, oh, that's great consistency. Bring me flowers on a Tuesday. What we talking about?
Right, but I understand now, as a
Yeah.
married woman, I understand. But at the time, like growing up, that's all I saw. I saw her,
Yeah.
planting her flowers, and she really enjoyed planting her flowers. But as far
Mm-hmm.
as like getting a bouquet or something like that, it was always just like, why are you bringing this to me?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so for most of my life, like I just was not moved by flowers. And then in
Mm.
2016, I had
Mm.
a bilateral pulmonary embolism. And I
Well,
had, like, of course, I surrounded myself with these male friends of mine. And one of my friends, he came to the hospital with flowers. And another one of
mm-hmm.
my friends said, why did you do that? She doesn't even like flowers like that, right? And he
Mm-hmm.
says, I just you want her to know I'm worried about her and I care. And
Mm.
I told them when they finally told me, like, Ronald brought you some flowers, I was like, that's great. That's sweet. And they looked at me with this shock on their face. And I said, it's the
Mm.
fact that it was his way of saying he was worried about me and he's happy I'm okay.
Yeah.
So it's the
Oh, so
gesture.
he didn't even leave the flowers. He took the flowers with him because they were like, she hates
No,
flowers.
he left them, but they told me
Oh,
who
he did leave
brought
them.
them.
Okay.
And
Oh, that's
yeah, and so I was like, I said, no, it's the gesture. Like it's the gesture. And
yeah.
for me, that day
Mhm.
changed everything about flowers for me.
Wow.
And so now I'm like, oh, when someone brings me, and my husband brings me flowers all the time, I'm like, it's the
Yeah.
gesture. Like I'm head over
Mhm.
heels for flowers, and I
Yeah.
always want flowers in my home. Um,
Mhm.
so I know you talked about how flowers the arrangement for you helped you with self-care, like it was a form of self-care. So
Oh,
let's
yeah.
talk about
Yeah.
how women, black women especially, can
Mhm.
bring this beauty into
Mhm.
their lives and
Yeah.
really embrace a soft life era with
Yeah.
flowers. Let's
Yeah.
talk about that.
Mhm. Let's please talk about it because you said a lot, sis. You truly did. And when you talked about the kind of the reasons that you were almost repelled from flowers,
Mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm.
There's so much in that
Yeah.
because so often we get these learned
Mm-hmm.
aversions to things based on traumatic experience or
Yes.
traumatic witness,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so this idea that flowers are like scientifically proven to improve your
Mm-hmm.
mood, to make you feel better. They talk about that with, they do the studies around, people who have in the hospital who have flowers by their bedside actually are proven to recover faster,
Yeah.
right? Like there's so many like scientifically proven healing properties in flowers. But for so many of us, I'm talking about Black women in particular, Black men especially, we see it as a luxury that is not for us,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't really lean into it in the way that we should. And I am here to tell you we need it.
Yeah.
We absolutely need it, even if it's just the simple things. And I say, I say jokingly that I don't engage with grocery store flowers because I also live in LA. We have the second largest flower market in the world,
Uh-huh.
so I can be a flower snob. But if the only flowers that you can get are from the grocery store, go get them and enjoy them. My only thing with grocery store flowers, I feel like they just don't
Right.
last as long as when you're getting them from the farm. But regardless of from where you get them, whether you get them from the grocery store, from the farm, or out of your own garden, care enough for yourself to do that, because it's important for us to take the moment out.
Yeah.
Take a moment to pick the flowers, whether you're picking them out of your garden or you're picking them from the market or wherever. But then even the process of arranging them, right? Again, going back to just science, where it talks about how creativity is a proven form
Mm-hmm.
of stress relief. It's interesting. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine. Um, and because the point in it being a proven form of stress relief is that we as Black women, and Black people in general, Black women in particular, carry so much stress,
Mm-hmm.
and we need outlets for our stress. But for whatever reason, we consider anything that is a proven and effective outlet for our stress to be not a good use of our time.
Right.
And so I was having a conversation with a friend of mine who works in data, and she was saying, we were having a conversation about Postal Petals, and I was talking about, some of the community initiatives that we have where we really specifically go into Black and Brown communities to kind of share the message of floral wellness. And, we take them through movement, which is usually, stretching, hiking, walking, yoga, that kind of thing, followed by a guided or sound bath meditation, and then taking that energy into a really peaceful floral design workshop. And the idea there is just to introduce them to an attainable, accessible form
Mm.
of self-care and mindfulness.
Mm.
But it was interesting because I was kind of telling her about some of the reactions, and people always love it. They're always really surprised at the experience or how they feel after. And so as I was telling her about it, she was like, she said, I was sitting with a client once, and we were going over data about self-care and wellness. And basically what they were saying was that the idea of self-care and wellness in that exact terminology is foreign to Black women polled in this study, and that is more of the language of white
Mm-hmm.
women, because white women don't consider self-care a luxury. They consider it a necessity, right? So you have white women, they're always in the gym, always in
Yep.
yoga, always with flowers, always with these things, because that's a part of their life. Like that's a part of their necessity. Self-care and wellness is a part of what's required for them to exist.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with Black women, she said that with data that they gathered, instead of self-care, instead of wellness with Black women, in order to get them to the same space, you have to use words like recover,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
refresh, recharge, something that suggests relaxation, but requires a acknowledgement of the struggle.
Yep.
I thought that was really fascinating in a way that I hadn't really thought about
Oh
before,
yeah.
because we don't think enough about our self-care. And I love that you said, it's time for us to really focus on soft life.
Definitely. Like, I
And
don't think we have been historically given the luxury to think about ourselves. Like, we are Black women have been in survival mode. And so that's
yes,
why
yes,
if it's a recharge, it we
yeah,
get it. Like, oh, I had a
yeah,
hard day, so this will help me recharge. Okay, I'll do it.
yes,
Versus, I just want to do this because it just makes me happy and it brings me joy.
yes,
That is
yeah,
very difficult for Black women.
hmm,
And I
yeah,
will attest to it. Like, I'm 45 years old. I've worked the
mhm,
majority of my life, and been a very independent woman that has taken care of myself. And I got
mm,
married at 43. And my
mhm,
husband was like, "Oh, babe, I just want you to relax." And I did not understand why he kept
mm,
saying relax over and over and over again.
mm,
And then I recently left my corporate job. And when I left, I was like, well, what am I going to do? And I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll try this soft life thing. And it was the
yeah,
most
girl.
difficult thing for me to embrace living softer, like doing the
Yeah.
things that matter to me because I just want to do it, just because it brings
Hmm.
me joy. It makes me feel lighter. It puts a smile on my face. Like, those things were so difficult to
Mm.
embrace without feeling like you're wasting time, that you're not being
Mhm.
productive. Um,
Yeah.
those types of feelings. And sadly, that is how the majority of Black women feel. And so with flowers, though, I always love to bring fresh flowers in the home because it's like that little bit of joy I get to have. And I can just
Yeah.
sit them
Mhm.
on my counter, or I can sit them by my bed, however I want. They just look beautiful. They give me a sense of luxury. And I just feel like if you have to take a small step into soft life, flowers are the way. And so that's why I feel like they're so important for embracing a soft life.
No, I completely agree. And it's interesting. Like I love that I'm hearing so many Black women talking about they going into their soft girl
Yeah.
era. And I'm like, that's right, baby. Get in there. Because it's funny because I said that this year for us, for Postal Petals, um, it that it this is the year of radical self-care.
Hmm.
It's the year of radical self-care. And I am so adamant about it. Like, I'm absolutely not playing about it, because we have worked, and I'm saying we as Black women have worked so hard and so long.
Yes.
We need a break.
Hmm.
We need a break. We need a break. And I just want collectively for us to take that break and to be in agreement that
Hmm.
this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
And I want to see more flowers. I want to see more walks in the park. I want to see more luxuriating. I want to see more vacations. I want to see more everything soft life you can think of. That's what I want to see for us. I don't want anybody to be guilted into any action that they're not feeling mentally ready for.
Right.
I want people to absolutely embrace that soft life and that radical self-care, because we need it, right? Like, you
Hmm.
think about how long generationally how long and how hard we have worked as a people.
Yes.
At what point have we ever collectively said, "Oh, y'all, I'm tired.
Right.
Let's sit back. Let's rest a little bit."
Exactly.
When I tell you I'm so in love with the general consensus of just
The
sit back and watch
92%.
now.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. I'm like, sit back and watch. Yeah, baby. Like, no, 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 absolutely. And this is coming from someone who has been deep in that fight
Yes.
for a very, very long time. When I tell you the way I feel good about just looking at my flowers and looking out the window and just planning vacations and really thinking about the things that make me happy. And
Yes.
that's because I think that what we don't realize, we don't give ourselves time to acknowledge, is that with all of the hard work and all of the things that we have been through generationally in this country in particular, that there's so much trauma
Mm-hmm.
that we all have not we have not worked through individually or collectively. And I think the only way to do that is in peace.
Yep.
The only way to do that is in moments of stillness. And I don't believe that we have all been given a moment of stillness. And I'm hoping that there is enough happening now and enough of a movement to where we will begin to prioritize or first recognize the trauma that we've been experiencing. And as a result, prioritize the need to correct it. And the need to correct it is in the form of self-care and mindfulness and meditation. Listen, I'm all about flowers just because I think they're beautiful and I love the way they make me feel.
Mm-hmm.
But even if it's not flowers, find something else that gives you peace. Walk in nature,
Right.
start painting, start doing puzzles, whatever gives you peace. Because the one thing is, we always are talking about this grind for generational wealth. And I always say, like, man, what is the purpose of working and grinding for generational wealth if the goal is not generational rest?
Ooh,
Right? Think about how long that we have
that's
worked, right? Think
good.
about how long we have gone. Like, that is just not that can't be the goal forever and always. And it's also this idea of giving ourselves a moment to remove the self-imposed obligation of intellectualizing our existence.
I love
Right? Because
that.
we don't have to prove our value. We don't have to prove how smart we are. We don't have to do any of that. We don't have to do anything but just be.
Yes.
And that's really what I want for us. And that's, for me, what the flowers do for me. It lets me stay present. When I tell you, all I'm doing is thinking about, if I've got roses, stripping those thorns off. I
Mm-hmm.
got, where am I going to place this particular stem and that particular stem? And once the arrangement's done, what could I have done better? What do I want to add more stems? Where do I want to put it? Like, those are the kind of, dare I say, frivolous decisions that I want to be making.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, I don't want to be making life-changing decisions all the time.
Right.
Sometimes I really want to lean into my creative space. I want to lean into the soft spaces of
I
life. Soft
love
life.
that. Talia, this has been such a beautiful conversation. I know
Thank
so many
you.
women will feel inspired to bring more beauty and intention into their lives after this. But before you go, can you share where people can connect with you and order from Postal Petals?
Yes, please. We are at Postal Petals across all platforms, POSTALPETALS. We are at all that's our entire digital footprint is Postal Petals. Postalpetals.com is where you can order. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok. I think we're on Blue Sky, Fan Base. We're everywhere. So please follow us. We offer our bloom boxes. You can get them on demand, which is a one-time purchase, or you can order to kind of put your self-care on a routine. Get it once a week, every other week, or once a month. And then we always have various workshops and things that we've got going on. So yes, please support us. We are a Black-owned business, and we fight for every dollar of revenue that we've got. But even if ordering our flowers doesn't make sense, because I always say DIY flowers aren't for everyone. It's not appropriate for every occasion. For the times when you do need a professional florist, as opposed to you doing it yourself. We have a Black florist database on our website.
Love
So
it.
I would just invite your audience to please, if they do need a florist in their local area, please go onto that database and find a Black florist that they can support in their area. And if they go on that database and they know of a Black florist that they don't see on there, please let us know, because it is a living database, and we're always asking for folks to help us keep it populated and keep it current.
I love it. So, to my listeners, if this conversation resonated with you, take it as a sign to add a little more beauty, rest, and intention to your life. And whether it's flowers, journaling, or simply giving yourself permission to pause, know that you deserve it. Make sure you check out Postal Petals, and I'll drop the link in the description. And if you're on this journey of soft living and self-discovery, we can talk. Let's talk. You can book a one-on-one coaching call with me to start cultivating the life you truly desire. I thank you guys for tuning in. And until next time, peace and blessings.